Storybox Audio.
This week on Cannabis Legalization News, a new study says 2 out of 3 Republican voters want legal weed, and GOP congressional members are touting that new study. Federal health agencies have issued warnings about CBD, while noting that products purchased at a dispensary may be safer than purchased elsewhere. There's also a new study about epilepsy and cannabis, and a study about if cannabis can contribute to heart disease. Plus, stick around for state news from North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Washington, and New Hampshire. Finally, we'll play Name That Strain on today's podcast.
What's happening, everybody? Happy Sunday. It's Cannabis Legalization News.
You packed it a lot.
Pardon? What's that?
I said you packed it a lot in the intro, man.
I did. It's called a script. And so I wrote down what I wanted to say, said it, and then edited it. Much easier than me just trying to do it on the live. You know, that's the tough one. I mean, now that we've kind of done the roundup, it makes it a lot easier. You know, thank you for joining us on another episode. We have some interesting news out of, it's a poll. And this poll has been reported on Marijuana Moment. 68% of conservative Americans support ending the prohibition against cannabis. That's 2 out of 3 GOP primary voters are more likely to choose candidates that support ending the federal cannabis prohibition. Wouldn't that be something if the primaries for next year's GOP, I guess it is next year, it's 2024, year's GOP candidate would be the one who says that they will legalize it?
I think it's very interesting, but also, I mean, this is not a Republican Democrat issue. It's an American issue. It's 1 out of 3 Americans, or 2 out of 3 Americans rather, that think legalization should happen. It's a greater number than it's not. So, it'd be interesting if they put it to their platform, but will they? Will they?
They probably will not. We do have the link for this press release that they put out on February 22nd, and they issued it. This is the Coalition for Cannabis Policy, Education, and Regulation. They did a survey that shows a 10-point increase from the year previously. That was 68% of likely 2024 Republican presidential primary and caucus voters support ending federal cannabis prohibition. Also, an overwhelming majority, 70% of the GOP voters, say a state's right to deal with the issue of cannabis legalization on their own terms.
Legalization's a no-brainer, dude. I mean, at this point of the game, I think people are creating their own realities when it comes to like what is and isn't. Like, for example, yourself as an entrepreneur, you were able to be a cannabis lawyer in businesses, right? In cannabis industry type business parts. Something like, say, if you were a beer lawyer, you'd be involved with like Anheuser-Busch and all these other, U-Haus, whatever. But
right.
Time will tell. But, how are we going to get to the end game of like freeing everybody and not putting people in jail no more? I really don't know. And I really hope, they get on board and at it. Because is it on the Democrats' agenda, because they do that, right? The platforms create like their goals for the year or whatever.
Yeah. There are goals and there's platforms, but I don't think the Republicans have ever put it on their platform. I'm not sure if the Democrats have ever put it on their platform either. It's one of those things where everybody seems to want it, except for their elected officials who don't even bring it up.
Yeah, I just think it's misleading news shit. I mean, like, it's nice that we talk about it and it's a thing, but also 2 and 3 Americans. It's the majority of Americans. Like, when I was traveling across our nation, I didn't see a bunch. I mean, like, you could tell when you're in certain like backwards thinking areas, non-progressive, I guess, for a better word. But that doesn't reflect the people. That's just the people in charge. And that's how you got to kind of look at these things. It's like those people in charge are still, archaic. They're still old thinking, which is not, the same people want to arrest their way out of a situation, right? We're trying to pander to like the greater constituencies, but in actuality, to have a real solution to the problem, there's ways to do it. But hey, dude, I had to give a shout out to Matt in Kansas, the guy who I got that random phone call from.
Mm-hmm.
That was the scariest thing. We put ourselves out there.
Yeah,
it was like a minute OPSEC thing, but also like, holy shit, we got good people that watch us, and holy shit, we got people that watch us, right? Like right now, there's 100 people,
Yeah.
you know, and then when we get like whatever 1,000, whatever the reaches we got, I don't care. But the point is, like, there's some really good people that are like, I got a random stranger phone call. I think it was on Tuesday. It was during a work day. I generally don't answer the phone sometimes. I answered it, and then it was like, hey, is this Miggy? And I never get a phone call to ask for my internet name. And I'm like, yeah. And scary fucking thing. But the dude was totally like, hey, by the way, just want to let you know your phone number and social security number and everything else out there. And it's not just mine, it was yours too. But
that was my fault. I didn't see it. I didn't see it in the edit. And then it was in the edit. And so if you guys haven't checked out, you should. It is currently February 26th. You have until March 10th to apply for an Illinois cannabis dispensary license from anywhere in the United States. And Miggy and I applied. You can check out the video of it, how to apply for a dispensary in 2023. Google that. That we should come up for that one, because I think that's what we titled it. And it's true. Like Illinois has opened up the cannabis market in its state for social equity applicants throughout the country.
Well, it's a cool video because it's like, no shit. Like, here we are trying to put ourselves out there, do a try. And this is the same try that everybody else has a chance to do.
The winners are going to do the same thing. Now, they might be human and trafficked and exploited and manipulated by the moneyed people behind them.
Yes.
We don't know that.
But, I mean, the chances are, but the point being is this is one of those great equators. This is the reason why legalization happens, right? For $250, and if you got an arrest, or if you live in an impoverished area.
No, and it's no longer conditional. It used to be one or the other. Now it's both. So, and then there's a map, and then there's links in the video. Yeah. So check out our how to apply for a cannabis dispensary license on our channel. If this is the first time you guys have tuned in, don't forget to smash them likes, click subscribe, and leave us a comment. We'll come up more often.
So the person who asked about how I met the requirements, I've both been arrested several times, and I live in an impoverished area, apparently. So, hey.
Yes, you do. And so this is one of the cool things that we can do through the magic of technology. We can go to the states. And so it's real easy. You just go to this website. You do Google IDPFR, adult use cannabis dispensary. This will come up, and this is the first, like the second link is where you can go to apply. It didn't take us very long. And then here's this map, and you see if you're in the map or not. The map, for example, I don't live here anymore, so that's fine. So don't send anything there, but it was in it. Drive. And so then you'll see whether or not you're in the map or not. And so this one it's in green. And then you need to have both. And so I no longer live there. But also I was never arrested. So Miggy has both. He can apply. It took us like 10 minutes tops.
Yeah. I mean, you're witnessing a real partnership, really. It's a real like adventure. So we'll see. I mean, fingers crossed, because then if we win the quote unquote lottery, then we have to do the next process is they actually quote unquote make a business plan.
Oh, like no, I got plans on that. You know, we understand how much they cost to build, raise, and open, but then it becomes other stuff where the stuff that I'm hearing out of the state is pretty interesting. People are getting into shelf space agreements. We might be able to finance the build out through entering into a shelf space agreement, or we just sell some equity because, you know, we've never done this before. So if you've never opened a dispensary before, you might want to have somebody who has, or at least enter into a contract. Yeah.
Well, this is why again, since we started this podcast, why I've been fucking with you, for lack of a better word, man, we're like, just like grown-ups, right? We're trying to, how to do the business side of things. I never really understood that. I mean, I do understand it, but I just don't like it. I don't I don't have the patience. I don't have the time. I just want to be like, look, give me my money and I'll do what I need to do, period. You know what I'm saying? So I need to help establish that little foundation, which, again, if you're going to get involved in this, you need to create a team. You need to find a team of people that you can trust and work with, period, in all this, any state.
Yep. Absolutely. And then that's one of the things that I've published. We'll go over it later. I guess we'll do that on it's 420 somewhere, plug for my company. But I have to add a new one because I have to talk about your CFO member of your team. It's very overlooked. The CFO member, the person who actually understands finance and cap tables and discounted financial analysis and net present value. so that we can understand like what our pre-money valuation is, our post-money valuation, and then look at the P&Ls every month to determine what it actually is. Because those types, and then what are the options that you have to capitalize yourself? That's not your accountant. Your accountant doesn't do those types of things. They may, if they are a double threat, but typically accountants got an accounting degree and CFOs got a finance degree.
Well, and again, once you get into the business side of things, right, we're just trying to get the badge. We're trying to get the license to get in, and then we're going to build that other part of the team. Like you said, the CFO, the finance. Like that's why you do the finances. I'll help do the other media, whatever I need to do, promotions and stuff. But yeah, you definitely you need to hire people who take that part of that one job seriously, because eventually that's what's going to be like a portion of your company running. Not doesn't make the whole part, right? Like I work for 2 bigger companies. They have their own like HR. It's like government. Everything has layers and shit to get through to get a thing done. But you want to talk about some state news?
Hey, we do. We actually have something that came out of Washington State. Washington State news. Go ahead, man.
Oh yeah, we Washington bill will prevent employers from testing job applications for cannabis. This is something, again, 10 years of regulation, and we're just getting to this.
10 years of legalization, and only now, published on February 22nd, 2023. 11 years, because I think you guys legalized in 2012, and then it became effective for retail sales by like 2014, right?
Yeah, and it's not just that so this bill is just a bill, right? This is not even a rule yet. That's the problem with this whole process. 10-year law. Yeah, it's not part of the actual what I'm allowed to do or what's allowed to happen. So again, will it take 3 years like Homegrow has? Because Homegrow just finally, a portion of Homegrow, it doesn't even reflect the original bill, but a portion of Homegrow has passed out, hopefully going to go forward. How long will this take to get through? Who knows?
Who knows? Or will it even get through? But it's going to stop employers from Washington State from discriminating against job applicants for using cannabis outside of work. It's been legal for a decade, and this is only now becoming a thing. And the sponsor of the bill is Senator Derek Stanford. He has a quote that says, "This will allow more people to apply for jobs without having to worry that they're going to be screened out in that hiring process."
Which is like ridiculous thing to have anyways, right? Because where has drug testing actually catches bad employees? Show me where it's actually prevented something.
Yep. I used to work with an employment and labor lawyer named Lenny Sachs, and he would say, hey, if you're going to have a drug-free workplace policy in your company, be ready to fire your highest performer as well as your lowest performer. And if you're able to do that, fine. And that's one of the reasons why I think, rote jobs like fast food or the lower service jobs, they can do that because everybody's doing the same thing. But you aren't going to see it in like a software company or a law firm.
Oh, dude, like I said, I've always said before that, I'd make the most money and never had to take a drug test. You know what I mean? Like jobs where I've made the most money is something like your skill set proves who you are. But again, manual labor where I've learned half the shit I know, that's the guy who deserves to be vibing. The guy who's putting fucking cans on shelves, digging a hole.
Working, like doing labor, doing stuff to beat down your body because that you're strong when you're young. That type of work, yes, you should be able to smoke weed. I mean, seriously. That
remedial repetition, but also it lowers, it kind of belittles the whole cannabis use and working because, it is medicine. It's not like I'm saying the guy who should be digging a hole should be allowed to drink, right? Because I definitely don't get as much done when I'm drinking versus like smoking all day or whatever the case may be, or in comparison.
But they shunt you toward that one. They say, hey, this one's legal.
Yes,
it's freely available. It's cheap. Like right now over there is the Missouri Valley Conference Championship game of Bradley Braves versus the Drake Bulldogs, I think. So whoever wins gets to go to the NCAA playoffs. I will guarantee you that they are serving beer across the street.
Well, the recent Super Bowl shows the great hypocrisy what we have here, right? I mean, how many freaking types of alcohol did Serena Williams sell? I saw her in a beer commercial, an alcohol commercial, and it was all these sports figures selling booze. Not even
like George Clooney or like The Rock. The Rock.
Any of these fuckers, dude. No, it is the hypocrisy that's hurting us. It's prohibition is doing more harm than good overall. Society, wise. Just a cure for cancer could have been. Dude, let me share this with you guys. So I shared this in the Slack earlier, and it has to do with Carter, right? Like,
Yeah,
we could have had legalization by now. Can you imagine, like,
Look at
27?
1977.
Yeah. Carter endorses, and the only reason why they lost or didn't go through with it, we even had Keith Strop on here, but we didn't want to. I didn't want to ask. Like, I did want to ask, but I didn't ask. But he knows he did. He's admitted it in articles, but he's the one that screwed legalization in the United States, honestly, when it came to that one administration. But I can't blame him, because you also probably think, because you're so impassioned by the plant and you see the
It was
truth.
just so much easier to sustain a lie 50 years ago, or 1977, I guess would be like, what, 46 years ago?
Yeah.
It was just so much easier to sustain a lie back then. Not that we don't believe in weird, crazy, hooky, spooky shit now, but you don't really have any reason to, other than you want to believe that hokum. You do. You don't really have any scientific reason to do it, but you could just maintain a lie back then. You couldn't do the studies. You didn't have the internet. You couldn't go, oh, well, is this a source that's reliable? There's like 3 sources.
Right. Well, that's part of, like, in that time frame in the 77, right? Because this is also the time when Fox News was created, because they were trying to counteract the go ahead.
Technically, that came substantially later, because that was in the 80s, after they had sponsored certain changes to laws so that they didn't have to give 2 sides of the story anymore.
Right.
And that's when they relaxed that in the mid 80s during cable, and then they pitched Fox News like in the 70s, and Roger Ailes didn't get anywhere. And then it did start to get traction in the 90s after that law had been changed.
But you saw what I'm talking about, though, because as far as like this with Carter, at that time when legalization almost hit us, it was the common sense thing, right? People would look outside the door and be like, "Oh, yeah, I guess this isn't so bad. We're that close." But what failed us was Strop sending in that letter about the cocaine parties this guy would tend to.
Yeah,
But,
he should not have been doing those cocaine parties in the 70s.
That went all the way to the 90s, though. Cocaine parties, right? Like, wasn't the 80s like a blurb?
The 80s were brought to you by cocaine, I believe. Oh, but it's 20 past the hour. So that means that no matter where you are, it is 4:20 somewhere. Good times. Good times.
Oh, that was brought to you by Cloud Base. That's
yes. Yeah, I did not get that. And we don't have like a 420 show note break in our show notes. And then I was doing stuff, and so I don't have any shilling for the company.
No, it's all good. That's why I threw it in there. But are we doing the 420 somewhere live? Or are we doing that pre-recorded today again?
We're doing that pre-recorded. We have a guest that'll be on. She's going to be talking about SXXW and Texas legalization. We have some Texas legalization stuff coming up, so check that out.
That's gonna be fun, dude.
It sure is. It sure is going to be fun. But one thing at a time.
Yeah.
We got some interesting news.
Yeah.
And by interesting, I mean the regulations take forever. And regulations take forever news. There is a new federal health agency issuing a CBD warning while noting that dispensary products may be safer than those purchased elsewhere.
Neat. So hold on a second. I'm typing there, timestamping it, 1840.
Yes. Yeah. And somebody has to do the chapters, right? But then a federal health agency. I like how it's very nondescript. A federal health agency. So the name of the health agency, I believe, is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. A very underfunded agency.
Not a fun one to say.
It is, yeah. It's known as SAMHSA. SAMHSA. The popularity of CBD products continues to grow. It actually does have a SAMHSA leader, and she has a PhD, by the way. And so, she also has a Twitter account, and they tweeted this SAMHSA advisory opinion. Let's see if we can click on the tweet to get. Okay, it's the actual tweet. I wanted to see. That is not how you make links, American government.
So
not how you make links.
I mean, but like the summary of this article, though, too, is like, okay, so they're saying CBD products are fucking probably potentially bad Probably the ones you buy over the store, but the products you're buying at the dispensaries are safer because why?
Oh, because they are regulated.
Yeah.
Because they are regulated. I believe that is why.
Yeah.
So in 2019, over 270,000 United States retailers sold non-FDA approved CBD products. A percentage of CBD users who purchased it from a marijuana dispensary was 40. Retail store, 34%. Online, 27%. Another source, aka gas stations, 12%.
Yeah, I don't trust half the shit that you see out there when it comes to cannabis. And again, because of the entourage, because it's like, if this plant is not legal in the state, I really don't. I mean, there's besides like the ones who are risking like shipping Delta 8 flower across state lines, right? There's plenty of companies out there. You just got to find those legit ones to take that are willing to take that risk. But I don't think as many that you see in the advertisements are legit. You know, that's the hard part to fund. If we had federal legalization, it would make it so much easier for consumers to discern where they're getting good product versus like, hey, this guy just bought a bunch of China hemp or something.
I will guarantee that they were obligated to draft this report. And this report also includes footnotes and then also parrots a lot of federal statutes and regulations. So this was done on purpose to say that they've done their job. Good work. They've done it.
Yeah, again, you're reinforcing how the regulated market's a better market in the states. Like, you know, people are being hurt, citizens are being hurt by this lack of cohesiveness of law in our own country. You know, it's just ridiculous.
Yep, they spend the CBD versus marijuana legal definitions. It's how they started this thing. Well, actually, they started it with the market breakdown and definitions, like you always do, and then potential health effects. Yeah. And then CBD versus marijuana, they do cite the legal definitions. Oh, good. It's the Farm Bill. I'm glad that I was buried in there, and they have links out as well. Do they have the conclusion where they say, please use the dispensaries? Which would be funny.
That would be probably practical. I mean, that'd be the good thing to advise if you're going to tell someone to consume cannabis. But, you know, one policy catches up with what common sense is. That'll be a fun day.
Yep. And then it has a link out to the FDA stuff. And the FDA back last month said FDA includes existing regulatory framework for food supplements not appropriate for cannabidiol. We'll work with Congress on new way forward. AKA, see ya in 2028, everybody.
Shit, man. Again, until federal policy happens because of the hemp market and the ambiguity between the two, hemp and marijuana, nothing's really going to be solid. So for like another 20, 30 years.
Oh, I mean, we're just talking about how the government's failure to be able to regulate hemp by itself.
Yeah.
Now, imagine you're going to use THC now too. How well are they going to be able to, you know, regulate the marijuana plant? And by marijuana, I mean like just THC.
Right. Well, that's
cannabis plant when there is a hodgepodge of regulations everywhere. How are they going to have a unified system to say this is the way that you're supposed to do it?
That's the problem. That's with regulation itself is it's trying to define it with that THC barrier, right? Like, you know, somebody, you know, in our Facebook group, you know, I always go through the chats trying to filter out the spam bots and try to answer like some questions about cannabis consumption, you know, through the memes and whatnot. And somebody's like, "Hey, I don't get high no more," which you hear a lot. And my suggestion is like, try hemp, you know, try a Delta 8, try flower though, like that, like the flower component of the plant, not like an extract or some shit like that, but actually smoke the flower because, you know, a lot of those like rosins or your Delta 8 extracts, all that supposedly is originally flower. And that's why I question things. That's why I say just stick to the original product. But if you're not getting high, it's not about THC. It's about the cannabinoid and terpene experience combination and how it affects your body. So it's not just THC, but yet because the word psychoactive is in definition of THC, people are the regulations like, oh, well, it's a thing, right? This can't be installation to your house and a fun Friday night. No fucking way this can be, but it is.
Yeah, I know. And then so now we're talking about an inability to regulate CBD hemp. How on earth do we expect them to do anything to regulate THC cannabis?
But that's the thing is like the overthinking of the regulation, because the only regulation really, like I always say, is lab regulation, is plant regulation.
Make tax collection easy. I mean, cigarettes have been killing us for decades. They know how to regulate that.
McDonald's. How many
Yeah.
fucking victims?
Right. Quite a few. And then they know how to regulate that. And so like you read the federal statutes that they've proposed and it's just GMP certified compliant. And it's like, okay, great. So you're going to need to have standards in your operation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Just like if you were making green beans in a can.
That's the thing, right? SOPs and like the business side for bigger things is very boring. And that's what, back to like us applying for that license and how I hope to financially succeed or the success I hope to see. You also have to set realistic. There you go. Realistic obligations and or bars and all that stuff, right? Because I'm not gonna think I'm gonna walk away with $2 million, but you know everybody's gonna get their part, and walking away with $400,000 is not too bad for a $250 investment. So, you know, fingers crossed that we win.
Fingers crossed. And then I'm trying to get other people just to crowd the Peoria space so that we can also
right.
Somebody else that needs help that's from out of state has one. Let's put together the C Corp and start raising that money.
Exactly. I mean, it's a low entry to a good return, and this is the kind of shit that is good for Americans as far as like low people who the average Joe type shit. That's what this is about, right? $250. If you can scratch that up and went through the grievances that I had, then hopefully the ball is yours. So. We got some weird medical news week.
Interesting, weird medical news to report out of Forbes. I was just kind of queuing up the article on that. But let me see here. This one was stuff that I wasn't expecting.
There we go.
So far. Look at that. According to Forbes magazine, marijuana use may increase chances for heart disease, according to a study. I'm not sure about that. Well, let's dig into it. It has to do with people who use cannabis could be more susceptible to heart disease than people who have never used, according to a study published by the American College of Cardiology. Found that daily marijuana users were 34% more likely to develop coronary heart disease because of a blockage of buildup of plaque in the heart than people who have never used the drug. An interaction between THC and blood vessels could promote inflammation and the buildup of plaque, according to the researchers' conclusion, which is interesting that an anti-inflammatory, when placed into blood vessels, evidently could promote inflation and create the buildup of plaque.
I believe munchies.
Munchies may also be it. It could be a number of things, but how are the confounders? Let's see. The survey published by the National Institutes of Health. So again, they might have had to have been looking for the harm because those are the only studies that really get funding. And so the Centers for Disease Control Prevention estimate at least 48.2 million people have used the drug at least once since 2019. Remember that. People just don't think weed's as cool as you do, especially you guys.
Well, again, we underestimate so many portions of the population. I think the cannabis consumer, which is the average consumer, right? You were saying just earlier how be ready to lay off both your shittiest worker and your best performer, right? Because we cover the gamut, period. So this is just another bullshit article because you can't put this type of study in an overall population thing.
Well, but they make it sound like it's so certain. Now,
linked to tobacco.
That it's not, and well, it has not been closely linked to tobacco, but they say that it hasn't been studied very well. Has not been closely linked to tobacco, and then smoking cannabis can also harm lung tissue and cause lung scarring and damage blood vessels. A small study released in November 2022 suggested emphysema and airway inflammation was more common in marijuana smokers than in cigarette smokers. And an August poll from Gallup said many people are smoking cannabis, but that is a Debbie Downer of some cannabis legalization news there.
I don't think so, man. I just think it's bullshit news that where it's a study being like we've had plenty of evidence out there with people, consumers, like normal everyday citizens for years that I just don't think the averages are there. We're like, our heart Are heart attacks increasing in a nation because of cannabis use? I don't think so. You know, it's the same shit, same day.
I think the heart attacks are more likely to be blamed by diet and lifestyle. Some of the
Period.
lifestyle, of course, includes cannabis use, but I don't understand unless they were actually trying to find that. You know, we could dig into the study and like actually go through the science. Would
There's
people
no
enjoy that?
I mean, maybe if you want to hear about the science, give us more likes and tell us in the comments. There you go.
All right, tell us in the comments.
That's what I'm supposed to say.
What you think about this study out of Forbes magazine? Who benefits on that?
Yeah.
I wonder.
Who benefits?
Who benefits? And then I'm trying to find the link to the study. I don't like when they have articles that don't link to studies. They say like, "There's this study. Here's some key facts behind the study. It was published here."
That's the unfortunate thing about like Forbes magazine and getting away with this bullshit, right? You should have links to that study all over that article, but yet they'll get away with like, we'll say it, just don't make us prove it until later, or if we do, we'll find a way.
True that. We got some interesting news out of another state, though.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. We're going to move on to New Hampshire. Let's see.
Where are we at here?
New Hampshire House bill passes marijuana legalization bill that's sponsored by top Republican and Democratic lawmakers. Maybe we're going to get some understanding of what will happen in New Hampshire cannabis, adult use cannabis.
Very cool. I mean, good luck to you guys. You know, the north east corner needs to lock it up.
Yeah, I don't know how many people actually live in New Hampshire, but they cast her vote from legalization from seat 420. Good for Amanda Bolden. She must be an elected official in New Hampshire. Members of the House Commerce and Consumer Affairs and Liquor Subcommittee spent weeks working on the proposal, and they've approved HB 639. The body would also be renamed the Liquor and Cannabis Commission. So they're going to do a similar regulatory body as they've done in Washington State, where they give it to the liquor regulators. But that's parity. That's what we've been asking for. Regulate it like alcohol.
But yeah, I mean, and again, but it isn't.
Well, yes, alcohol does not have possession limits, for example.
True story.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about the background noise. I got a little kitten playing in a box back here. So in case you hear that,
do we have do we have a bumper for a kitten cam? So
we need one, dude.
Show the cat. It'll probably help us get more views right now.
Yeah. Well, right now they're adorable, but yeah, they're cool. But they play for everything. Kittens are cool.
Okay. Well, here's the possession limit information. Adults 21 and older will be able to purchase and possess and or gift up to 4 ounces in New Hampshire if this HB 639 goes ahead and passes. Within 18 months of enactment, the State Department of Health and Human Services and Commission would develop regulations allowing existing medical cannabis dispensaries to apply for dual licensing. You see that quite often.
Nice.
Cannabis cultivators are going to be taxed at 15% of their monthly gross revenue. That's kind of the government wetting its beak pretty well. Just, hey, how much did you make this month? All right, where's my cut?
Well, 15% is not too bad opposed to the
That's how the cultivators back, man. It's 15%. I mean, that's twice. Like the cannabis privilege tax in Illinois is like 7%. And so
really,
there it's
wow. Because I think, well, here in Washington, I think it's like 30%. But like the upcoming Oklahoma vote, I think it's going to be same thing, 15%.
I thought it was 7 and 5. Well, I'm not sure. We'd have to check the Oklahoma vote, but we'll be covering that as March comes back up. And that's the other thing. Every state has their own tax rate.
Right.
Yeah. Did you what do you mean you haven't memorized all 50 the tax rates? Because
the law. The law for every fucking state. The requirements for each state.
They also have IRC 280E mitigation, at least at the state level, because many states parrot the federal regulations for taxing and for at least for the calculation of what income and like what you can deduct or not deduct. So that 280E very often burdens the trafficking of Schedule 1 substance because Congress has not figured out how to regulate this plant besides Schedule 1.
If federal were to happen, I think the best thing could they override the taxes implemented? They can't in individual states because that's individual states' power, right?
But the feds could tax it too, then, and so
well, they will. But what I'm saying, as far as like saying, because 50% is high, but like I'm comparing that to Washington State's bullshit 37 or whatever it is, ridiculous amount. Like I feel for these guys. This is another hard part. Like making it harder to go into this industry because of the taxes. Because you got to compensate. Like, okay, I gotta make this much money for myself. Then I gotta give this much money to this other guy over here who I'll never see, never know, and just trust they'll never get arrested or, go through some raided or any of the other things that other industries don't have to worry about.
That's right. We do have some pretty cool news, though, out of North Carolina. Let's see how many more articles we have. We might want to do Name That Strain first, and then a couple of news stories to wrap it up. We got North Carolina, and then we have Cleveland, and then we have Pennsylvania. Let's see. And an epilepsy story, all with Name That Strain. So I think we can do Name That Strain and then try to wrap this up before 4 so that we can get to the podcast that we're going to do next.
Right on, dude.
Right on, dude, indeed. Let's see here. There she goes. That's Name That Strain. And,
colors.
Colors. She has not yet been picked. And that's sometimes happens, you have to wait until they're ripe. I don't know if I would pick that one because you can still see like some of those pistils are alive. They aren't red.
Yeah.
Some are red and sunken in, but not all of them. I bet if we examine that under our jeweler's loop, there would be some clear trichromes and maybe not the full head of the capsiate or whatever it is.
But you're there though. When you're at your grow, you're looking at the trichomes. You're checking those. I mean, that's the advantage of having a home grow, right? Like, that's why I gaff off trying to being true to grow because I don't have the time to give it. I mean, when I do give it time to grow. I'll have a garden and I'll have like plethora of things, and I do try to tend to it. But when I know I don't have time or will have time, I mean, there's just nothing I can do because, and when it's so illegal and prohibition out there, that it doesn't make it worth the time sometimes.
The ones that we just harvested yesterday, I should have put up our video of our little harvest that we had yesterday. Had some, I would call it these types of smells. Berries and earthy aromas, followed by a citrus twist. This is a good one for a novice grower. So the beginner would, I guess they probably are pretty ruddy, not very, very delicate of a plant, which is something that you really want when you're a beginner. You want a hardy plant.
But to identify the trichomes, though, to get that level of like pulling out Joel's loop and looking and being like, this is when I'm going to harvest her. That's definitely an indicator, right? You see all the questions there. When do I harvest? When do I purge? When do I flush? These are all factors to making good tomatoes.
Right. Yeah. Those tomatoes, you can learn so much about when to grow those tomatoes. And that's something that you really can find on YouTube and that YouTube's great for. You can find out how to grow tomatoes really well and all the life cycle components of it. I don't know if you could do the commercial. I mean, but you can get at least a hobby and an understanding. The commercial cultivation, I think that it's like making McDonald's hamburger. Like you need the machines to do it.
Do we have a clue on this one? This one's a hard one. This one is a hard one.
This one is a hard one. It's because it's new genetics, and so like it's animal cookies crossed by OG KB crossed by Wet Dream.
Wow, many people said cookies too. That's interesting.
Animal cookies is the particular one crossed with OG KB crossed with Wet Dream.
Even Chad hasn't got it yet. Dun, 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 dun.
She's a homegrown original, which means that this is something you could find, and we've already and I think that I can go ahead and do another one of them right here. If it's still in there, great. I'm sharing a little link for you guys in the chat. That's where you can go find this particular cultivar if you think it's something that you would enjoy.
Are those the seeds that the company that you?
Yep, that's the company that has given us an affiliate for seeds, and that one is called Cement Shoes.
Very cool.
This is a beginner-friendly strain, and it's pretty strong. 22% THC, they say. Berries and earthy aroma, and she's a homegrown original, meaning that they made it for you guys themselves. It's their own proprietary genetic.
I mean, and again, growing is such an experience. You learn so much. I have bags of hemp seeds that I'm hoping I will test more than 0.3%. So we'll see.
We'll see, bro. It's fun. I mean, like I'm really excited about the Willie Nelson and the lemon amnesia that I have, and then I have a clones of something that's fairly similar to this. It's a purple punch crossed with an Afghani, not OG cookies crossed with OG KB crossed with Wet Dream. That's so California right there.
If Bubba Kush and Mama Kush fucked, and then they had General Mints and they fucked, they make this one.
Yeah, it's mostly indica plant, greenhouse, indoor, outdoor, temperate, continental, sunny, Mediterranean. Kyle Cushman says, reminds me a lot of OG Kush Breath. And then I think that's one of its parents, OGKB, OG Kush Breath. Very intense and psychedelic stone.
I think right now it's time to pop beans too. Chad, correct me wrong, Northwest, but we're coming up to March and April's time to throw things in the ground, I believe. So pop those seeds because the time's coming.
It's on soil temp, man. And so like right now we're still kind of waiting for we have a hoop house that we have to put up, and then it's still like I was going to stop over at the garden supply store today, but it's still closed for the season because like I need some perlite because I don't like how my substrate's draining really well.
Okay,
but whatever, we got some great news out of North Carolina, by the way. Did you know that we have some?
Yes, I saw that earlier.
Yeah, this one is okay. Wait, what does Chad say about what time
Getting
it
started
is?
Inside right now.
Get started right now. So if you're on the West Coast and the PNW, it's about time for you to prep your plants.
But yeah, North Carolina is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm going to say North Carolina is pretty cool. Here is what they're going to have. We are getting long in the tooth of cannabis legalization news when states like North Carolina put together a bill like this. This is Senate Bill 3 filed on, does it say exactly when it was filed? It was filed on January 26th, 2023, a bill to be entitled Enacting in the North Carolina Compassionate Care Act. North Carolina is getting into the medical marijuana game.
Well, South Carolina is still trying to get the recreational almost moved because they are on medical right now, I believe.
And it has a debilitating medical condition list. You see that right in there? Because I do. Yeah. Post-traumatic stress disorder. And then you also have to prove it, though. You have to have one or more traumatic events, and it can be military service, victim of violence or sexual crime, first responder. Details of the trauma shall not be required. MS is also on the conditions. Terminal, diagnosis. Lots of very serious medical conditions.
You know what's interesting about the first responder one, though? It's like, okay, you're allowed to see all this messed up stuff and be entitled to cannabis, but yet you'll lose your job. Like, there's no employee protections in there, is there? Probably not.
I don't know. I'm trying to find out if there's THC limits.
I imagine so.
Because I'm trying THC and I'm not getting anything on that.
Or type in percentage, just the percentage symbol.
Percent. No, I don't know if I have the whole document pulled up as well in this particular thing because I have to scroll through it and it's like an embed kind of thing. So I might not even be able to.
But again,
it's on it.
It's a bill being applied, running through the motions. So fingers crossed they make it right. Like fingers crossed something is better than nothing, I guess.
Something is better than nothing. And we're just trying to find out how much cannabis you're allowed to have and what. And they have verification systems, consumption periods, packaging. Child-resistant packaging, of course. Annual reports. I don't see anything about the percentages, so hopefully it's just regular cannabis and not low THC. Usually you can find low THC.
Oh, I got you. Well, like Texas, and we'll be talking about deep diving later, man.
Right, because like they just have no person shall be without a medical cannabis supplier license, so maybe that might be like an MMTC. But you can grow, cultivate, produce, or sell cannabis or cannabis infused products. It doesn't say low THC, which is nice. I'm glad that we are seeing that.
Oh yeah. Well, and then again, once the bill or law, whatever it happens to be, gets its foot in the door, that's where things like here in Washington State, we still have fucking knuckleheads trying to cap and tie taxes with percentage of THC, right? Like, just why?
Our taxes in Illinois have to do with THC percentages too. So, like, edibles are taxed at one level, flowers taxed at another level, and your your vapes or your dabs are taxed at the highest level.
Yeah, but there's no need for that parity, I guess. There's no need for that. Like alcohol is not made like that, right? Beer versus booze. Like, I mean, and that's the thing, right? We call it's all alcohol.
Mm-hmm. It is.
We don't go around calling hemp and marijuana THC. It's all THC.
No, we kind of do. And then we also have a lot of these types of news articles. This one comes out of signalcleveland.com. So we have some Ohio cannabis legalization news. Cleveland tests job applicants for marijuana despite mayor's expungement push. The director of HR admitted during Cleveland's city council budget that a positive test for marijuana is considered disqualifying for employment with the city.
The great hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, like we live in this constant, like we'll say one thing with trying to appease people, but flat out just being on one side of the issue.
You work for the government, you can't use weed.
Well, that's the same thing with the Biden shit, right? When they said, okay, we're going to try and do this, but yet if you're in the administration or any of the other stuff, you can't say you were a consumer.
Yep. And so I'm sorry, I can't work for the administration. That's too bad. I really wanted to do some good, but I could be a member of Congress and smoke weed.
Yeah.
If I get elected. Yeah.
Well, and again, prohibition hasn't caught bad people, right? The law itself hasn't caught bad behavior amongst it just can't. You got to be smart about things, right? Like when I joined the Navy and the guy's like with my dreadlocks, you ever smoke weed? I'm like, all right, no, he didn't say you ever smoke weed. He's like, how many times you smoke weed? It went to like more like, how often do you smoke? And he's like, let's just say 3 times. You only got 3 times and tried it. Because I went in, all whatever. But just teach, like, go to your doctor. You don't try, you should be able to be open with this plant. You should be able to say, this is my lifestyle and this is what I do. But to survive in this fucked up fucking America or capitalism or whatever you want to call it, the mainstream capitalism.
Of Pennsylvania, though.
No, let's go.
All right, let's do some interesting Pennsylvania medical cannabis news. It's one of those ones that you don't like to see. So here's the one out of Pennsylvania. Medical marijuana card in Pennsylvania led to some legal trouble for some drivers. This person was pulled over by a cop, like they do. They pull people over. And he gave him his medical cannabis cards. And that was all the cop needed to give that person a DUI.
Oh, my God. That's unfortunate. And again, the cops are trying to make the law here. How many states did he say? Oh, I think it's in your state where the cops.
This is Pennsylvania.
No, but I mean, like, as far as like what some cops are saying that it has to be in the original container from the facility. Like,
yes, and so we do have that. Some cops say it has to be an original container from the facility or in a sealed odor-proof. They just changed the odor-proof, so it no longer has to be that, but it still has to be in a sealed container.
Yeah, but these aren't ways to prove. These aren't crimes, right? Like this person having a card and now you got a DUI. Versus
she was in an accident, and so she was in a car accident, and then she gave the trooper an ID. But just like how I had a medical card before they changed the policy here in the state that looked like any other state ID, I would try to use it to get into bars sometimes. It was hilarious.
Sure.
And it's a state ID, right? It just says that I have a medical marijuana card. But I wasn't in a car accident and showing that to the police officer, then to say like, oh yeah, this is me, officer. But that's pretty interesting. So she wasn't driving under the influence of anything, but when she showed him that ID, he took a look at it, and that was all he needed to suspect that she had been driving impaired.
No, that's just freaking horrible. Like the fact that, like, here, he did. It's just so frustrating. Like, it's not like he noticed some sort of incoherentness about her, or some sort of like if she was drunk, right? Like you can tell when someone's drunk, or we jokingly be like, oh man. Like, that guy's high. But, like, it's not the same. High. That's not the parity. The intoxication effect of the product is not the same. And her showing the ID, this cop is just an idiot for saying you're a bad person for telling me. This is, again, more shit that enables bad behavior from our side, too, right? From the consumer. I gotta lie. I gotta lie so I don't go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
You do. You have to lie so you don't go to jail. And to round up, we have some international news that came out this month. And so I'm going to do a quick little bumper, and then we are going to get to international cannabis news. In international cannabis news, parents and scientists back a new study into the benefits of cannabis-based medicine for children with severe epilepsy. This comes out of drugscience.org.uk. February 13th, 2023 was International Epilepsy Day.
and they put out a press release about a cannabis medication, and that there are 35,000 children with epilepsy that cannot be controlled in the UK, and touting the cannabis medications that have a potentially huge breakthrough with studies in the US, Canada, Australia, and Israel, but not necessarily in the UK yet, as the patients and the medical cannabis in general just isn't as mature in that industry or in that country as it is in the United States,
I wonder why.
Canada, and Israel.
I wonder why. Like, you know, that portion of like the world used to be so advanced, right? They're the ones that, you know, two little islands conquered the world. But I wonder why the UK is so behind on prohibition and policy and just what it is. Because, you know, United States, like they're comparing their studies to the United States and all the other places. But I think the EU in general is going to lock it up before they as a country themselves get it done, right? Like Germany's going to be about to turn. Some other countries out on that side, I think Hungary or Belgium or whatever, they all have like some form of legalization. So
I don't know, man. I have such a hard time keeping up with all the changes and all the different ones that are coming up in the United States, this state, that state, the other state. Like, all right, what are they doing in England? I have no idea. I got nothing on England.
Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, it's nice that they're actually getting more forward with the studies, but they're kind of behind the curve, right? With their, that's why we can buy CBD in a gas station right now. Period, for us on our side, right? Like before Charlotte's Web and the Stanley Brothers, you know, and I'll give them credit, but like, you know, before that there wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thought of like wellness, and now we're in the psychedelic era. Now we're looking at mushrooms and MDA.
Yeah, that's when we really just call it legalization news. But by then, hopefully, we have some other people that are doing the show. But, you know, it's fun to do a podcast. Anyway, I think we've wrapped up the legalization news for the week. Right. We're going to go interview somebody, and we're going to be dropping that 420 somewhere on the channel, hopefully Wednesday, Thursday. We're going to talk about SSXW and the Texas scene. So if you're joining us from Texas, don't forget to check that one out. And if you want a cannabis license, go to the channel and check out the what would we call that? How to win a dispensary license, or how to win a dispensary license in 2023.
Or watch the Tom and Miggy fill out the license and actually just see us do it.
Yeah. But I named it something very specific so that it would actually work for the SEO aspect of it.
Well, I think it was how to win a license from any state.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's how to apply for a dispensary license in 2023. Miggy and Tom apply for a license.
There you go.
Go check that one out because you have until, I can just copy and paste this into the live chat. Then you have until March the 10th to apply for a cannabis license in the state of Illinois. It's super easy. Check out how easy it is if you're really special and have social equity and qualify. That's the trick.
Check it out.
Check it out. And then check out this new video over there or whatever comes up next. And have yourself a great little Sunday, everybody.
Right on.